Now, you're very welcome along to this episode of the RTÉ Rugby podcast. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Ireland and Leinster prop Tadhg Furlong to talk about the Tackle Your Feelings Schools programme. Tadhg, thanks for joining us on the pod.
Yeah, no bother. Thanks for having me.
You're into the second down week of this World Cup training block at the moment. I don't call it a rest week. I've been under strict instruction. We were talking to some players over the last couple of weeks. It is certainly not a rest week. There's a lot of training on your own to be done. How are you getting on with that?
Not too bad. I suppose we're just at the start of the week here now. So, no, it's been running fairly smooth. 2 weeks on, then we had a down week. Obviously, you have to keep tipping away yourself. But I suppose it's away from, the mental stress of meetings, reviewing. You just have to get a bit of work done yourself, but also mentally fresh up because we're coming back in and we have a game week. This time next week, it'll be looking into Italy at the weekend,
Those, as you said, like it's as much a mental refresher as it is a physical refresher. This isn't your first rodeo World Cup wise. Like, would you find that having the mental training is almost as draining as the physical stuff in these pre-season World Cup campaigns?
Yeah, and I suppose it's half designed for that as well. When you're under fatigue, and blown a bit, can you still execute the skill? And we've done a lot of work on that this pre-season.
I remember during the Six Nations, it was almost a running joke between ourselves and the media about anytime something went wrong, whether it was last minute injuries, how much Andy Farrell was talking about how much he enjoyed it and he was welcoming all this chaos. I mean, are you preparing for him to just do anything on a random morning before training to see how you react or see what he might throw at you?
He hasn't thrown a whole lot at us in terms of out there stuff really, but it's a lot about just trying to control your own head, control your own emotions, trying to get as much out as you can, and no matter what's after happening beforehand. And I suppose even looking at or listening to a lot of the Limerick lads yesterday after their fourth hard line in a row is very impressive. But they talk about a lot of the similar things, don't they? Sticking to the process, believing it, next man up, etc. So, it's something that we're not perfect at by any manner of means, but something we work hard at.
Would they be a team you would look at the moment as kind of a prime example of a team that are able to do it with the pressure on them and all the expectation there? And even yesterday, things weren't going right for 45 odd minutes, and then all of a sudden they just stuck at it and eventually things worked.
Yeah, look, there wouldn't be a case study or anything like that in terms of camp, but I suppose when you listen to their players speak, they're not just thrown out the lines for the crack of it. You can tell that they believe in it. Very similar to the Dublin team and when they went through a successful period. Also, you look at that Kilkenny team, the last 4 in a row team as well. So a lot of those teams you hear, they talk about the same thing, and I guess it's kind of boring looking in or hearing from the outside, and you're looking for the secret sauce, but the secret sauce is sometimes the players buy in and the belief in what they're at.
Yeah, and I suppose the flip side is, if we're talking about the secret sauce and teams that are doing well from an Ireland point of view anyway, things couldn't really be much better than they have been for the last 12 months, results-wise anyway.
Yeah, but look, of course we've gone well, you know what I mean? Of course we had some big wins. Obviously the Grand Slam was class, and something we worked very hard for, but every time you go out and you have that expectation on you, you got to prove it all over again. And I think the lads are really, really grounded, working really, really hard, because we know what's in front of us and the opportunity that's in front of us.
Do you enjoy being a team that others are chasing, or a team that might potentially have a target on your back, or being having that pressure of being in a team that is expected to win?
Do you enjoy it or not? I don't know. I think you just have to understand it, and then just try to play as well as you can, and be honest and be true to the lads you're playing with, and management, the staff, and understand that you have to keep getting better, and you have to want to get better, and that's something we're always trying to do, and trying to, like, the perfect game, or it doesn't exist really. You look back at any game, and even if you win and you have a really good win, there's always areas you want to improve. And I think that's sometimes the crux of being a professional sports person is you want everything to be perfect, but it's not always going to be like that. But it's trying to get it as perfect as you can, and the want and the chase of that is where you find real growth.
In terms of the warm-up games then coming up, Italy first up and then England and Samoa, how much are you just kind of want to get back out there and start getting things going again? Because it's almost the step by step towards a World Cup where it's the preseason block and then the warm-ups arrive and you're just one step closer to getting towards a tournament.
Yeah, and look, even the 4 weeks we have been in camp, we'd look at training or put the expectation on ourselves from training the same you would as in a test match week. So I think there's a realization when we come back into camp, we have a very busy period. We have Italy first up, we're off to Portugal for a week, then we have England, and then we have Samoa. So it's going to happen real quick, and it's going to get serious real quick as well. And with that, you want to hit the ground running.
And one of the challenges facing you obviously is Johnny's suspended for those World Cup warm-up games. If I could just get your general thoughts on disappointed for him not to be able to play those games and missing out on an Aviva Stadium farewell in front of some home fans, and also how confident you are that when he is back in September, first game of the World Cup, that he's the Ireland captain, he's going to hit the ground running.
Yeah, look, of course, on a personal level, I'm disappointed for Johnny in terms of missing, maybe a last game in Aviva, but he's played a lot of games. He's very experienced. In terms of him hitting the ground running, he's played so much rugby. He's training really well. The way you set up training, you'd hope it's as competitive as a game, really. So he's going to get a good block in there. I know he's had a fair while out, through injury, but sometimes that's good. You know what I mean? You can come back fresh, mentally fresh. Your body's you're feeling like $1 million, and the experience he has and the way he can lead himself. I wouldn't doubt him for a second.
In terms of your own injury situation, then last season, it was a disrupted season for you. It was stop start and on off. Where are you, first of all, with the calf/ankle at the moment? Is everything okay at the moment?
Yeah. I had a how would you say it? A mixed first 2 weeks, not in terms of on the injury front, but I was coming back after an injury I carried into the European Cup final. So I was kind of in half in rehab camp, half in training camp. But the last 2 weeks there, I was fully back in with the team. So I feel good. Obviously in preseason you tend to feel good anyway because you're not playing. There's not a whole lot of contact to ding you up. At the minute, touch wood, I'm fit and ready to go.
Was it like in terms of last season? Was it just one of those injuries where it was just constantly following you around, where you might have thought you were getting towards the end of something or getting back, and something would just get a bit of a niggle and set you back again?
Yeah. I came in. I had a good few issues around calf ankle, and then we kind of cleared up all those. I came back in midway through the Six Nations, and then I had a completely different one at the end of the season. So it's just one of those things. Sometimes it feels like you're playing whack-a-mole at times, but it's the job we do. It's just the way it is. I've been very fortunate in my career not to have a big injury, like a blowout, an ACL, or require surgery on one of your, I suppose, major joints. So sometimes it's just a price you pay. You get a few niggly ones that hang around.
Yeah, and they are tricky those to manage. I remember speaking to Ian Henderson last season, for example. He said he's had a couple of big injuries down in his career, and he had a season like last year and the year before where it just felt like he was getting in for a couple of weeks and something would stop him, and then as soon as the momentum was coming back, something else would stop him again after that. Like those while they're not leaving you, lying in a chair for weeks on end or not being able to walk or on crutches, they are things that are difficult to manage mentally and physically.
Yeah, no, 100%. And look, the S&C lads, the physio staff are, they're incredible in both environments, and there's science behind it. And you can get up and running, but it's the load on load on load and how it steps up, and you get, I suppose, robust, they call it, from training week in, week out, playing games week in, week out, and sometimes it's just hard to break the cycle. And I suppose our problem is you're trying to ramp up, you're trying to get ready for a game because it's an important game and you want to play, and you want to maybe back a week before that. So, there's always a target to hit, really, and you want to make it. In terms of the mental side, but probably you have to accept it yourself. You know what I mean? You can beat yourself up about these things, or missing this game or that game, and it's just the way it is. You just try to get the most out of your rehab times you can, and work on your body and get strong for the injury prevention.
The reassurance from the Irish fans' point of view, maybe not so much for your point of view, was that maybe a couple of years ago, one of the big questions around this Irish team was, you're obviously a very, very important player. What happens if Tadhg Furlong isn't around? We did see in the Six Nations that Finlay Beelum and Tom O'Toole were both well capable of filling in those jerseys and putting in some great performances. Like, Finlay was in team of the championship. Tom put in some big performances off the bench as well. Like, it must be very pleasing at the moment with the level of depth you feel you have.
Yeah, and it's no surprise. I don't think it's any surprise for not just me, but anyone in the squad, to see the boys doing well. And they put a lot of work into it. They train very hard, and sometimes it takes one or two moments, or big moments, to say, that player's playing unbelievably well. But the nuts and bolts of the boys are, incredible, and the way they work on it is incredible. So I don't think it's a surprise to see either of the boys doing really well.
To back on what I said earlier on, obviously, like, this isn't your first World Cup. What do you feel you've learned from when you were going in as a pup in 2015, and then 2019, a more established player, and now to 2023 when you're very much one of the senior players in the group? What kind of things to do, things not to do have you learned over those 3 World Cup campaigns or down the years?
2015 and 2019 were totally different experiences, obviously, because 2015 I was covering loosehead and hooker and tighthead. I was very new to international scene. So I'd like to think in 2019, and hopefully if selected for this one, that I'd have just a better understanding of how it all works international rugby wise, and I suppose that comes with experience. But the biggest thing is you got to enjoy it. You have to enjoy it for what it is. You have to embrace the pressure of it. And you need to be able to switch off when you switch off, because it can be all consuming if you let it be. So it's just trying to get, when I'm playing with Ireland and Leinster, I can get down to Wexford here, I can see grass, I can see family. And that's me relaxing, that's me letting, rugby's gone, I can chill out. But when you World Cup, you don't have that. You're in boarding school, with leaving cert every day nearly, at the World Cup, and it's just being able to find those windows to get away from rugby and to chill out.
Some of the players last week were saying, like, some people will meet up in groups of 2 and 3 and do their bit of training this week. What's your kind of plan? Are you get up early in the morning and get it done yourself, or are you more later in the afternoon? What's the schedule that suits you this week?
No, I'll get up early and go. Get a bit of food in, have a coffee, and go then. And then I don't like stuff hanging over me all day. I've been an early riser anyway, but I don't like that stuff hanging over me. I'd like to get out and have a good clean run at today, to say that.
to go back on the experience, as I said, you're one of the more experienced in there. I think I was counting about 22, I think, of the 42 in the squad. For them, this is the first World Cup training campaign. And I think it was Jimmy O'Brien actually was one of the players we were speaking to last week. And he was saying, like, it is something you have to get used to, where initially those players are coming in for a week before a game into an international camp, be it a Six Nations campaign or an Autumn Nation series. But this is a big block and a big chunk of your actual preseason and the hard work before the campaign, preparing for one specific tournament. Is that something you found, like, is that an important thing to differentiate between the way a normal international campaign goes?
Yeah, and we're pretty much on the road now when we come back in until the World Cup. So we're getting good experience there. Obviously we're playing warm-up games. We're in Portugal, we're in France. We're back home for 2 internationals. So we're in the bubble now pretty much until we leave. So hopefully we're getting a good understanding. We'll sort out a flow of the week, how to get away, in terms of mentally, some of the activities we can do as a squad to keep it fresh. So I think everyone's looking forward to it. And I think there'll be a lot of learning in the kind of next 4-week block for us.
Has there been much look at the opposition yet, or is that still very much a kind of a casual phase of just keeping tabs on other teams?
Yeah, keeping tabs. Obviously, the championship is running down the southern hemisphere, so you're watching that anyway. Just as a rugby fan, as much as everything, there's certain trends in the game that have really kicked on since, I suppose, the Six Nations start. Like the ruck is so hotly contended now. So it's just having not specific on teams, but having an understanding where the game is going, kind of what's hot, what's not in the game, and not doing necessarily as a team, but taking individual ownership and practicing those skills that you need to practice to stay with it.
And the magnifying glass, so to speak, will come out way closer to the tournament on the opposition then, is it?
Well, I presume so, yeah. Again, look, we've plenty of stuff that we need to work on, plenty potential left in the tank for us, I think, that we're trying to chase down. So once you get into game week, yeah, of course, you'll be narrowing the focus.
And one final thing I wanted to bring up, I meant to say it earlier, looking back on last season, and you spoke about at times it was a bit frustrating, but there were plenty of good moments, but one in particular, captaining Ireland back in November for the first time. I remember we were out in Abbottstown the week of it, and look, you were joking. Obviously, there were so many injuries in the group that you were the only one left to take it on. But all jokes aside, it must have been a wonderful experience and a real honor for yourself.
Yeah, surreal. It is surreal, and but like, what an honor. You know what I mean? I don't think a whole lot of people get to say it, and it's something that no one will ever take away from you. Which I'm very proud of, as are the family.
Did you make a point at the time of kind of soaking in the day and kind of reminding yourself not to let it pass you by almost?
A small bit, you lead the team out, or but when you're playing the game, it's you're just playing the game, trying to do your thing or whatever. But afterwards, yeah, it's the phone goes hot and it goes mental, and it's cool. You know what I mean? It's a cool thing.
So have you given Andy a nudge and said, look, Johnny's obviously moving on now in a couple of months' time. That's I've done a pretty good job first go. I should be getting it.
No, man, I want to have a neck. I want to have some neck to be going around like that. But to be honest with you, it's not something I chase down. I think I've spoken before I think it's relatively practical to have a prop as captain, being realistic, because you don't play the 80 minutes. Your relationship with the referee, in terms of scrum time, etc. So I don't know. It's something that I haven't really put a massive amount of thought into, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, listen, we'll wait and see. Stranger things have happened. Tadhg, it's been a pleasure speaking to you for the Tackle Your Feelings school program, and enjoy the rest of this down week and whatever comes of the World Cup campaign.
No, what? Thank you very much.